Glenn Beck, Harry Reid, Steve Young, Mick Romney, Stephen Covey, and Orrin Hatch, they're all Mormons.
Yes, they
okay?
are.
So if I asked them the question that I did, can you be a biblical Christian at the same time that you are a temple-attending Mormon? As one of those that gave the temple recommend, what would you answer?
I would say with my understanding of Christianity now is that no, there's a huge conflict between being a biblical Christian and being a Mormon. You can be a Mormon, you can be a biblical Christian, but you can't be both at the same time.
Why?
Well, the reason is that you start running into contradictions. For example, one of the temple recommend questions that ask, do you have a testimony of the restoration of the gospel? And when they define gospel, they mean the Mormon gospel in these latter days. So what you have to say is that the early Christian churches were all wrong, they fell away, and Joseph Smith had to restore the church. So you have to believe in Joseph Smith and accept him as a latter-day prophet.
And you promised that when you were being interviewed for your temple recommend.
Right. By saying yes to that, you are agreeing with everything that you've been taught. You agree that Joseph Smith did restore the church, that he was a prophet, that the Book of Mormon is true, and that any contradictions as a biblical Christian, Mormonism overrides.
Okay, what else?
Then the second thing, again, in Christianity, our focus is upon Jesus Christ. But you would also be asked this question: do you sustain the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as a prophet, seer, and revelator, and as the only person on this earth who possesses and is authorized to exercise all priesthood keys? And then also you have to accept that for the other general authorities and the local authorities also, not as prophet, seer, and revelators, would be the 12, but you'd also have to sustain other general authorities and local authorities of the church.
By saying that you do, are you promising, swearing? What do you call that?
Well, you will not contradict anything that the prophet says. If they state something, the discussion's over. You have to agree with the teachings. You cannot challenge the doctrine. You cannot question anything about the Book of Mormon. You cannot question anything about contradictions between the Book of Mormon and Doctrine and Covenants, contradictions between the Bible and the Book of Mormon or Doctrine and Covenants. You just have to agree with what the leaders say and accept it and march on.